Tuesdays, we go to Washington, D.C., and Pulitzer Prize-winning Washington Post reporter David Fahrenthold. Can I ask you about this Wuhan lab story that has surfaced again?
It's fascinating, isn't it?
It is. So suddenly at least one of the op-ed pieces in your paper is in the Washington Post is explaining, okay, this is why we and the rest of the mainstream media didn't believe Trump when he opined that the virus may have been released from a lab in China. So, I mean, this is I guess it's like a journalism question. What is the press's responsibility in a case like this where they doubted a president because basically they said he's got a reputation for lying, so how can we believe him? And then he turns out to be right.
Well, we don't know that he's right. What we know is that there is more evidence coming out now that there may have been some connection to this virus lab near Wuhan in China. The issue is not that we knew then, in 2020, we knew Trump was right and we said he was wrong. It's that nobody knew what was going on. I mean, outside of China, there was a lot of debate, and I think there still is a lot of debate. Right now, there are more facts coming out that are pointing toward the possibility that this was a leak from a lab. But I don't think anybody has really concluded that's what it was. And if they do, then we'll say, that's what happened and Trump was right.
Well, this is the quote from Aaron Blake's piece. He says, quote, "It has become evident that some corners of the mainstream media overcorrected when it came to one particular theory from Trump and his allies that the coronavirus emanated from a laboratory in Wuhan, China, rather than naturally." So it could be that the thing that got Trump in trouble was that he was releasing, as he apparently reflexively did, the content of intelligence briefings that he wasn't supposed to release.
Very possibly. I mean, I think it's, there maybe were some corners of the internet or corners of the media, as my colleague said, that were too hard on Trump. I think what the Post said, and I didn't write up about this, but I think just as a reader, what we said was that nobody knows. And if Trump had evidence, he could have brought it forward. And I don't think anybody has actually seen hard evidence until pretty recently. Mm-hmm. We've covered that evidence as it's come out.
Right. Well, I mean, except if the evidence at the time anyway was classified as secret, he really couldn't have brought it forward. Right.
But he did, sort of. Like, if you're going to say it, say it.
Yeah. Okay.
It's hard to say, like, well, I know this thing, and you'll find out a year from now why it's true, but I can't give you the proof now.
We're going to find out in a few years that he was a very stable genius, David, and boy, are you going to be sorry. Okay. You've still been following the Secret Service payments to Trump's hotels. So he's still charging the Secret Service now for the offices they keep at Mar-a-Lago?
Yes, they use one room a night, and he charges them $396.15 a night. So that added up to $40,000 over this spring when Trump was at Mar-a-Lago from January 20th when he left office until April 30th, right before he moved to Bedminster for the summer.
But there's nothing illegal about this, right?
No, there's nothing illegal about this. It's never been done before by a former president, and it's unusual for a guy with $1 billion to charge the Secret Service to protect him, but there's nothing illegal about it.
Well, I mean, who knows? He's going to have some pretty considerable expenses based on the number of court cases against him, right? So he's trying to bank a little money just in case. When we hear that Trump is in charge of the Republican Party, and I hear that mostly from Democrats, and it's still Trump's party, can you tell us what exactly that means?
Well, I think it means a couple of things. One, his endorsements are still the most important in settling intra-party fights. I mean, look at Elise Stefanik winning out over Liz Cheney in the battle for the number 3 place in the House Republican caucus. It means that Trump's rhetoric and his agenda are the things that guide what other Republicans talk about. And so Trump's focus now on the non-existent claims, his claims of fraud that are related to non-existent fraud in the 2020 election, those are the things that are driving Republican actions in state legislatures about trying to restrict the right to vote, driving attention on things like the Maricopa County audit, trying to prove this fraud that doesn't exist does exist. So his ideas and agenda are the things that drive the Republican Party. There's nothing that unites them like Trump's agenda does.
Are they assuming that he is the candidate in 2024?
That's an interesting question. There are people, obviously, like Ron DeSantis, the governor of Florida, I think Tom Cotton, the senator from Arkansas, maybe Kristi Noem, the governor of North Dakota. There's a lot of people out there who I think are positioning themselves to run for president. But I think the assumption is they would only really run if Trump was not in the race.
Yeah, I mean, nobody's going to announce. Is anybody going to announce at this stage? I mean, how late would they be willing to? Because he's famous, of course, for teasing candidacies. He did it for years before actually running. What would be the hard deadline by which he has to make up his mind before Republicans start announcing on their own without checking with them?
That's a good question. I mean, we are now. I think what Trump has said is that he won't announce anything until after the 2022 midterms. So, and most presidential campaigns start around that time. So I guess if we get into 2023 and it's, people are starting to wonder if Trump's in or Trump's out, then you might see some Republicans jump the gun. But anybody who jumped in earlier than that runs the risk of being basically, Trump will do to them what he did to Ted Cruz and Marco Rubio and Jeb Bush. That he'll just come out and, take the rug out from under you.
Okay, states are starting to open up. Even our state, famous for its restrictions, is going to be completely open by the end of June. Las Vegas has already reopened. When do you think the rallies start again?
Well, Trump has said that he wants to start rallies next month or this summer. He's in Bedminster, which is that's his golf club there. It's a less hospitable place for him because it's not like Mar-a-Lago where he sort of like lives in Grand Central Station with lots of people coming in and praising him. It's a little lonelier existence. It makes him want to get out more. So I think that's contributing to his desire to hold rallies. I don't know. I expected we'd have rallies a lot sooner than this. I'm not really sure why it's taken him this long, given that he was sort of talking about it, doing it, on the day he left office or soon after. So I do think they will resume, but we don't know when or where.
And do you think they will be as well attended as they were in the beginning?
Probably, yeah. I mean, in the beginning, there were only like a couple hundred people at these things, so definitely more than that. But, it will be, I don't know if he'll fill like stadiums, but he might. You remember, a lot of people who went to Trump rallies before were the same people. Whether he was having the event in Montana or Missouri or Louisiana, the same people would go around and sit in the front row at every spot. So you've got a built-in audience that will go wherever he goes. And I assume a lot of those people are still interested in doing that.
And if there is an active investigation, I mean, if they, Letitia James in New York, Cyrus Vance, there's now, they let drop there's going to be a criminal investigation into his dealings. If he's officially under criminal investigation come 2024, do you think that affects the campaign, or does that become a badge of honor?
Well, it's a great question. I thought a lot about. To me, it depends a little bit on what the charges are. If they pull out something really, people understand, people know that it's really bad, and it changes the way we see Trump. It tells us a side of Trump that we didn't know before, like the Access Hollywood tape. That could be really damaging. And if there's a real chance Trump could be convicted and sent to jail, obviously that could be really damaging. But as we talked about last week, if this turns into something where Trump faces kind of a piddly charge or a charge that seems trumped up, or he faces a charge and then beats it, then I think he does wear it as a badge of honor, and people see it as a badge of honor, and it gives him a bigger boost.
David Fahrenthold, live from the Washington Post. Thanks, David.
Thank you.
It is 7:20.